Yachts for Sale YouTube channel opening a window into the world of yacht brokerage, and today comparing two Explorer yachts from two shipyards in Turkey that have the same length, but some very great differences too. And the two yachts that we'll compare this week are the Bering 125, built on the south coast of Turkey in Antalya, and the Numarine 40MXP, built further north in Turkey, close to Istanbul. These are possibly the two brands that I get most asked about on this YouTube channel, and I know that many aspiring yacht owners dream of owning an Explorer yacht. So let's take a look at two of their yachts that have similar, actually almost identical lengths, and see how they compare. And at the end of this video, there's a third option that I bet you didn't even know existed. And starting with the Bering and the Numarine's vital statistics. The Bering 125 has a length overall of 39.15 meters, so that's 129 feet and 5 inches. Her beam is 9 meters, and she draws 2.5 meters. The Numarine, on the other hand, has a very similar length at 39.11 meters, so 128 feet exactly, a beam of 8 meters, and a practically identical draft of 2.51 meters. Big difference in beam there, at 1 meter difference, over 3 feet. But to be fair to Numarine, the 40MXP, which stands for Mediterranean Explorer, is an extension of the Numarine 37XP, but with a beach club at the transom. So the beam and the naval platform are of a slightly smaller yacht. That extra size in the beam translates into impressive gross tonnage for the Bering, with the official figure of a whopping 476 gross tons, whilst the Numarine 40MXP has a gross tonnage of 345. You may remember from a previous video that the 37-meter Benetti Moto Panfilo and the 38-meter Custom Line Navetta have gross tonnages of just under 300. So that puts in perspective the impressive gross tonnage of the 40-meter Numarine and the even more impressive gross tonnage of the Bering. I do harp on about gross tonnage in these videos quite a lot, I know, but with good reason. The gross tonnage is an expression of the interior volume of the yacht, the part of the yacht that's most expensive to build. So when you look at the price of a yacht, it's a mistake to look at just the length. Sometimes you hear people say that a shipyard charges $1 million per meter. That's nonsense. Shipyards will mostly calculate the price by gross tonnage. That's the best way for you to understand how much boat you're getting for your buck. But how has that interior volume been used? As usual, we'll start the layouts comparison at the lower deck and at the transom. The transom of the Bering 125 contains a beach club. Now, I couldn't find any images of this beach club online, I'm afraid, so I'm showing you a rendering of the Bering 145's beach club to give you an idea of what that may look like. Interesting that the layout also shows space for a sauna in the beach club, but I'm sure you can use that space however you'd like. In fact, the entire area can be used for tender storage if you prefer. Whilst the Bering Beach Club is enclosed, the Numarine 40MXP has an open beach club area. You'll remember that this is essentially the difference between the 40MXP and the 37XP. It's all in this extension. This seems to be a popular trend in yacht design right now. We've seen Benetti do a similar thing with the Oasis, and I have to say they do a rather better job with their renderings, and also Baglietto have a similar concept with their Dom 133. Both of these are tremendously successful models, and having spent some time on a Benetti Oasis, I can see why. Moving further forward, on the Bering we have 4 neatly arranged guest cabins, each one with their own ensuite bathroom. But just take a look at the layout on the Numarine. Whilst to starboard we do find a guest stateroom, To port, this area has been labelled as a TV lounge. I am 100% sure that you could have this as a cabin if you prefer, but this is the layout shown on the Numarine website. Further forward, we have another 2 cabins with ensuite heads, another cabin to starboard, but across the corridor is a large laundry room. And this brings us on to the crew quarters of the 2 yachts. Bering, once again, has a fairly conventional layout. 3 crew cabins, each with bunk beds and ensuite heads. A crew mess, and a separate room that I guess may be used for storage or a laundry. The Numarine, on the other hand, has a dedicated engineer's cabin with an ensuite, 2 crew cabins forward again with their own heads, and a crew mess with a large lobby area. I scratched my head about this layout, since the Numarine seems to have so much more space dedicated to the crew. I do know that you can have a 6-cabin layout below deck, with cabins instead of the laundry room and the TV room, but still, there seems to be so much more space, considering that they're both the same length. I believe that the reason for that is that the engine room on the Bering seems a lot bigger than the Numarine, as does the beach club, leaving less room further forward of the engine room. The guest staterooms on the Bering are a lot bigger than on the Numarine too. Having reviewed all of that, let's take a look at the main deck. The Bering has a very traditional layout once again, a nicely proportioned aft deck with dining facilities, a nice sized salon with formal dining. But then notice the size of the galley. That looks like a very large galley indeed to port. And to understand how they've done that, we need to go to the starboard side of the vessel, where the entrance to the master stateroom is quite far aft. Once you get in there, a very large walk-in closet is outboard. A sitting area is further forward. Remember, this is a very beamy yacht, and the bed is situated on the port side with a large bathroom forward. Now look how different that is to the Numarine. Here the galley is in a kind of a Z shape. Since there are no side decks this far forward on the Numarine, this leaves a big expanse on the starboard side. Sometimes this is used as an owner's office, sometimes a gymnasium. A very large stateroom is then at the extreme forward end, including his and hers bathrooms. From here we move up to the bridge deck, and each yacht has a large aft deck to accommodate a tender and toys. Berings show this along with a crane on their general arrangement plan. Numarine do not, although they do show it in this rendering. Forward at the aft deck, the Bering has a sky lounge. Bering shows a bar too, with a small serving area and a small day head neatly tucked away. Numarine, on the other hand, show an owner's stateroom with an ensuite bathroom, although I know with certainty that you could have a sky lounge here if you wish, just as you could have an owner's stateroom here if you wish on the Bering. The bridge on the Bering is nicely proportioned, and the captain's cabin is located after the bridge with an ensuite bathroom. The Numarine is very similar, although I must say that the captain's cabin, and particularly the bathroom, do look a little bit bigger. Both yachts have high foredecks, at bridge deck level in fact, and both yachts have seating and sunbathing areas there. Finally, we have the sun deck, and both of the yachts show plunge pools up here. Both yachts show bars and dining areas, but the Numarine appears to have a helm station up here, making it a real flybridge, whereas the Bering does not, which in my opinion makes it a sun deck. The big question where explorer-style yachts are concerned, though, is the performance. Before we look at the performance of these yachts, though, I should state a fundamental difference in the build materials. The Bering 125 has a steel hull with aluminium superstructure, whilst the Numarine has a steel hull and a fiberglass superstructure, which is quite unusual. The Bering has a top speed of 13 knots and a cruise speed of 10 knots. This is delivered by 900 horsepower MAN engines. The Numarine also has MAN engines, although the standard package offers 800 horsepower. You can upgrade them to 900 horsepower units if you like, but of course there will be a price associated to that. The standard units will give you a maximum speed of 14 knots and a cruising speed of 12 knots. And the range? This is where it gets interesting. The Bering quotes a range at 10 knots as being 4,500 nautical miles, whilst Numarine give their figure at a speed of 8 knots, when the range would be 6,000 nautical miles. Experience tells me that if you drop the Bering speed down to 8 knots as well, you will probably come close to 6,000 miles too. But when you make range comparisons, you really need to take into account the size of the fuel tanks. And here, there is a huge difference. Bering has a whopping 82,200 litres, so that's 27,200 gallons, whilst Numarine can accomplish their range with a 51,000 litre tank, so that's 13,474 gallons. Finally, the question on everybody's mind is usually the price. Shipyards are very cautious indeed in releasing details of pricing, and to a degree that is understandable. Optional extras can literally add millions to a price, and they often do. But to give you a ballpark figure, the Bering 125 is in the 16 million euro price range if you're looking for a brand new vessel. And my reliable sources tell me that Numarine are asking in the region of 17.8 million euro. So, which would you buy? The beamy Bering 125 with over 100 gross tons of extra interior volume? Or the sleek Numarine that, according to the figures at least, seems to offer better fuel economy? Let me know in the comments below. Now, in the last comparison video, I made a mistake. And thanks to the viewers who pointed that out to me. I compared the San Lorenzo 120A with the Sunseeker 120 and said that you couldn't access the foredeck of the San Lorenzo directly from the flybridge and that you had to take a long route around. Turns out that's not the case, and they have doors in the flybridge superstructure that you can open and in fact walk straight forward to the bow. It's a great feature, and I apologise to San Lorenzo for the error and to you, the viewer, for missing that. I'm especially sorry, because next week I shall be flying to Sardinia to film exactly that yacht, a San Lorenzo 120A called Blue Angel that we've just listed for sale. So I'm looking forward to checking that feature out, and I can't wait to show you the video. But I will have to wait, because at the beginning of this video I told you that I'd be telling you about a third option to the Bering 125 and the Numarine 40MXP that I didn't even know existed. And in fact, tomorrow I'll be publishing a walkthrough video of this incredible 42-metre explorer yacht called Kashif that was built by the Bilgin shipyard in Turkey. I was lucky enough to film when the owner was on board, so I got some real insights into the design choices. And honestly, I think you'll really enjoy watching that, which will be published tomorrow at 9 o'clock Central European Time. So, lots of great content coming to you soon. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, and click on the bell icon to make sure that you're notified when new content comes out. Bada bang! Now, to make it easier for the editor, what I'm going to suggest is that you film with your cell phone